Okay, this video, I'm just giving you one more tool that you can use. And since it looks like most of this is going to be done online through the rest of the year, you can use this chart. You can, there's a lot of versions of this chart that are online. A lot of teachers use a lot of different versions, but it's just a flow chart. And so what it is if you're given a unit of mass, you start here. And let's say you want to get to, let me just use a highlighter here. Let's say you're given a unit of mass. Okay, and you want to get to, say, particles. Well, you start at the top, you're given a unit of mass. So what you do is you then follow the flow chart, you go down, and this gives you the conversion you need. That gets you to moles of what you have. Then you use your coefficients, which gives you to moles of what you want. Then you use your last conversion, which would be Avogadro's number. If you are given, say, moles at the beginning, let me erase that too. If you are given moles, you would start here. And let's say you want to end at volume. Well, you would go to here. So then what you would do is you would cross over the equation using the coefficients. Then you use this conversion to get to volume. Okay. Let's do one more example. So let's say you are given a volume and you want to get to mass. Well, again, you just follow your flow chart. We start at volume. Our first conversion is 1 mole over 22.4 to get to moles of what we have. Then I use my coefficients to get to moles of what we want. Then I use my conversion right here. So what the flow chart does is it allows you to, you can either check your work from the Bridge in the Valley or the poem, or you can use this to set up your work. So it's just one more tool that you can use to get the correct answer. Okay, so for these 4 examples, we're going to just use the flow chart exclusively to set up our problem. And so I'm going to show you how you would use the flow chart. So let's do question 1 or question A. We have 5.5 moles. We want to know how many grams of oxygen we are going to produce. So let's look at our flow chart. Well, first, mole is mentioned once. So we're going to use 2 conversions. So we're still going to use that thought process. And we're starting with 5.5 moles of NaClO3. So we're starting right here. Okay, so moles of given substance. So let's write our 5.5 moles. Okay. Now, all of this is basically just your coefficients. It's explaining how to go from moles of one thing to moles of the other using your coefficients. So we use our coefficients to get to the moles of desired substance. So moles of NaClO3 come down, and we want to get to moles of oxygen. We use our coefficients. 2 is in front of NaClO3, 3 is in front of oxygen. And so now I have done this step here. Well, I ultimately want to get to grams of oxygen, so I'm going to follow this path right here. Well, it says multiply by molar mass, and it gives me my conversion. So mole of oxygen comes down, grams of oxygen goes to the top, 1 goes next to mole, 32 goes next to oxygen, which is what it's saying right here. And so now I have it set up. All I need to do is do the math, and I get 264 grams. And it is still exactly the same. Balance the reaction, given to moles. I'm already at moles. Mole to mole fraction, and then mole to the goal. So it's exactly the same, except now we just have a visual that we can use to either confirm or to use as our main setup for the problem. Okay, next example, we have how many grams of NaCl are produced from 160 grams NaClO3. Well, mole isn't mentioned. We're going to need 3 conversions. Well, we are starting at grams, and we want to get to grams. So we're basically going to follow this path right here. So we're going to start with the number, unit, and substance given in the problem. So I have 160 grams of NaClO3. And according to the flow chart, that's my conversion. 1 mole of NaClO3 over the molar mass of NaClO3. And that molar mass is 106.44. Now that gets me to moles of my given. To get to moles of the desired, I use my coefficients. So moles NaClO3. Now I want to get to moles NaCl. So I look in my reaction, it's a 2 to 2. Now I've done that step. And then the last conversion, I put the molar mass of the NaCl over 1 mole. So let me just erase this so we have a spot. So now I'm going to have 1 mole NaCl, molar mass is 58.44. And then I do the math, and I get an answer of 87.85 grams of NaCl produced. Okay, next example using the flow chart. I am going to erase right here. You can always go back just so that we have the space to look at the flow chart. Okay, and our answer for this, I'll rewrite it, is 87.85. Okay, we have a certain number of molecules. How many grams? Well, let's figure what we're going to do. So if we're given number of particles, I want to get to grams. So my first conversion is 1 over Avogadro's number, and that gets me to moles of what I want. Then I use my mole to mole fraction, my mole coefficients, to get me to moles of what I desire. And then I need to multiply by my molar mass, and it gives me the conversion right there. So I'm ready to set it up using my flow chart. So I have 5.89 times 10 to the 23rd molecules. Put it over 1. I'm going to do 1 mole of oxygen has 6.02 times 10 to the 23 molecules. And that will get me 2 moles of O2. Then I need to do my coefficients. So moles of oxygen come down. I want to get 2 moles of NaClO3. That's my coefficients. That's this step right here. So I have a 2 in front of NaClO3, and I have a 3 in front of the oxygen. Now the only thing left to do is to do my last conversion, which is going to be 1 mole of NaClO3, and then the molar mass, which is 106.44. And then I've done all my steps, and I get 69.4 grams of NaClO3. Okay, one more. And again, what I would do is I would pick one of these methods. Now, I'm not spending a lot of time on the flow chart because as in class, you've heard me say, I'm not a fan of memorizing. I'm not a fan of memorizing the flow charts. I would much rather you use the flow chart as a tool to check your work. Rather instead rely on knowing the steps or using the poem or using the bridge and valley. But this is a good way to confirm that you're getting the correct answer. Okay, so last problem. We have 5.4 moles of NaClO3, how many liters? All right, well, let's figure out what steps we're going to have to take. So I have moles of given, it's already given to me. I want to get to liters. So the first thing, I'm going to have to use my coefficients to cross the bridge in order to get from what I have to what I want. And then my conversion is 22.4 over 1. So the path I'm going to take is I'm going to use coefficients and then use 22.4. So to get it set up, we start with 5.4 moles. Put it over 1. And the first thing I need to do is to use those coefficients. So moles of NaClO3, and I want to get to moles of oxygen. That's what's given in the problem. So I use my coefficients. 3 is in front of oxygen. A 2 is in front of NaClO3. Then I need to use my 22.4. So moles of oxygen comes down. Liters of oxygen goes to the top. 1 mole, 22.4 liters. And then I've done that last step. And I get 181 liters.